And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As you can tell, we've had a very busy couple of days here in the Before You Buy department. A lot of games are releasing. Today we're talking about Back 4 Blood. This is the newest game from Warner Brothers and Turtle Rock Studios, once again trying to crack the code on cooperative multiplayer chaos. It is very much like the spiritual successor to the classic Left 4 Dead games that really helped bring this style of gameplay to the mainstream. So, long story short, Back 4 Blood is exactly that. Like, if you were looking for more Left 4 Dead, you kind of have that here, with more bells and whistles. The gameplay, the shooting, and some of the objectives feel newer and a bit more modernized, but you'll get that same rush playing with your friends, you know, mowing down zombies, trying to take down the more unique ones, and just struggling to get through to a safe house at the end. Like, if you're looking for that gameplay sensation, you absolutely get it here. I think some of the betas were a little rough, and I wasn't sure how this game was going to pan out, but all signs point to it as being pretty decent. You know, it's not without its problems, but it's fun. And just so you know, before we go forward, this footage was captured on both a PC version and the Xbox Series X version. So with this game, first of all, it's worth noting that the shooting feels pretty great. As much as there's an emphasis on ADS, a lot of the guns can be hip-fired, and some of them you can do fairly okay with. The weapon feedback is nice, and the gunfire sounds loud and aggressive and punchy. The reload animations are pretty sweet. There are main weapons, a sidearm, and melee weapons like a machete or a hatchet or like a bat with nails, you know, zombie killing stuff like that. You have a weapon you start with, but you find more along the way by opening crates and exploring for a little bit before moving on. And the weapon variety is surprisingly nice. You know, SMGs, assault rifles of all kinds, shotguns, and some really fun handguns with just like a lot of sidearm variety. They all feel accessible, but they all feel like they have their own little tiny differences in play style. I mean, even if at the end of the day, it just boils down to just firing a bunch of bullets into a crowd of zombies, the way they shake up are nice. And with the guns, you can pick up weapon attachments for them in the field. Unfortunately, like, it kind of sucks that they stayed locked to that weapon, so if you drop the weapon for a new one, you can't really take your attachment. At least that's what we saw. Feel free to correct us if that's not the case, but it doesn't matter too much because you're always finding cool weapons, and you know, some of them have different optics, different compensators, stocks, stuff like that all kind of change the stats and make them feel slightly different. Character movement and navigation is just quick enough to feel competent, but restrictive enough to make some encounters or just bad positioning feel pretty dangerous. You're carrying stuff strategically in a pretty limited inventory of throwables, like, you know, grenades, Molotovs, pipe bombs, and other tricks down the line. You're having different healing items, as well as toolkits for opening optional locked doors, defibrillators to revive friends quicker, and stuff like that. But you're also able to pick stuff up to kind of help build up mini defenses. You could drop razor wire to slow some average enemies down. You can often set up stuff like a mounted minigun in certain scenarios. You can also pick up and place or throw gas canisters to shoot at just the right moment to get an advantage, because you're gonna need every advantage you get. You might know how these games go. It's broken into multiple chunks, and each chunk has multiple levels or scenarios within it, structured around kind of a whole story or campaign. And it can get pretty challenging. Just a couple of acts in, we were pleasantly surprised by the whole level of challenge and coordination that's needed. Even if, honestly, like, sometimes the best plan doesn't really matter, because the game really loves to just throw chaos right into your lap. Like, to the point where multiple times the game just spawns massive enemies right on top of you, or the game just lets you fortify an area and then the enemies come from a completely different spot that we weren't expecting. It might be some of the randomness the game generates to keep things always interesting, but sometimes it can also feel a little sloppy and a little messy and not as fun. That's just here and there, though. All these sequences are surprisingly lengthy, though, and there's some good variety to the levels and areas. What's nice is that all of it feels perfectly good and spooky, from like abandoned buildings to spooky dark alleyways where you need a flashlight, to collapsed bridges, and even wide open farm fields that still manage to bring the tension. We don't want to spoil the last few for you, but they're pretty cool. It also feels messy when we've had the occasional crash on the Xbox version. You know, nothing insane, but here and there, and worth mentioning. Otherwise, with server stuff, we haven't had any problems. Granted, we've been playing during the early launch, not the full launch. This is like the early access special edition launch or whatever, so that's subject to change, but so far, okay. Now, on another positive side, the good variety continues with the enemy types. There's tons of the stupid, annoying zombies that are pretty soft and are just there to allow for you to just have some fun and slash or hip fire your way through them, but get surrounded and you can be in trouble. Dealing with them is, whatever. It's the pretty large variety of the more dangerous enemies out there that is awesome. Tall boys, big brutes that can mess you up, of course, dudes that spit gross stuff, things that trap you or grab you, pull you, things that call a horde to your location. There's a couple of different types and then a few variations within those types, and it's really nice to see. And that's not even counting the more boss-style enemies, which can be kind of a pain in the ass. Speaking of pain in the ass, there are multiple difficulty modes for jumping into, which is good for newcomers and for people looking for just more to play. And there's crossplay, giving people even more options. We always say, the more options for this type of stuff, the better. The game has some pretty inspired and fun little sequences too, like defending a bar while the jukebox plays actual licensed tracks that set a really good tone until the zombies damage the jukebox and the music screeches and turns off and you gotta turn the machine back on. Because man, with friends, that is a fun situation. Plus, with a card system, you can change up the levels for an added challenge and goodies like a time limit, making the level darker, or filling it with fog. And straight up, it really changes things and makes it a little bit more compelling. In between the action, there's a base camp that lets you mess around with the sub stuff the game offers. A lot of this is centered around the card system. You build a deck that gives you advantages in game. There's boring stuff like just a card that's more health, and crazier stuff that like you can get like no ADS, but you have a stronger melee or better bullet penetration, unique resistances, stuff that not only just helps you but also benefits the entire team. Some of it can be kind of interesting. Spending points in supply lines allows you to unlock more cards, and you can pick up stuff in game during levels to shake things up too. Now, I'm not really into card systems, even when there's no microtransactions and stuff. It still just feels weird to me, but here it works as a way of some character customizations or builds. I would prefer to just, get like boots that make me run faster, or just a skill tree or a gun upgrade or something like that, but hey, that's just me. There's a lot to them, and as of right now, there aren't any microtransactions involved in them. And the studio has been seemingly pretty upfront and transparent. There will be paid stuff, but none of it, apparently, will be of any benefit for PvP. Now, we shall see. Time will tell. But right now, it all seems okay. The hub base also has a weapon range, and you can get tons of skins for your characters and each individual weapon if you want. You can also engage in solo mode or swarm mode, which is the competitive mode that I only briefly dabbled in, but it seems like it can be fun. Getting to play as like the bad zombie creatures is simple because of the limited moveset, but pretty fun as something different to do in the game. It's, is it like on the level of the Left 4 Dead 2 PC mods? Not quite, but it's nice to have this here, and the ability to make a private server is pretty nice. I always appreciate that. There's just a decent amount here. Lengthy scenarios, multiple acts, cutscenes with story I didn't really care about, and characters that I didn't find as compelling as something like Left 4 Dead, but big levels, lots of enemies, massive amounts of card deck building stuff, and other modes. The content offering is decent, and if you have a good group of friends, you'll likely have some fun playing through this. It ain't perfect, but it's way better than I expected, and I think people are gonna have a lot of fun with it. Really, I know I hate to be reductive, but it's a modernized Left 4 Dead. If you've been hoping for something like that, you kind of have that here. The bells and whistles might annoy you, or you might like them. But hey, this is a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. What do you think of Back 4 Blood? Have you been playing since like the alphas and the betas or whatever? Are you jumping in because you got the big pre-ordered special edition? Are you waiting for launch day? Who are you? What's your level of interest? Are you a Left 4 Dead fan? Definitely let us know what you're thinking down in the comments. Now, if you enjoyed this video and maybe it helped you out, maybe informed you a little bit, clicking the like button's all you got to do. It really helps us out. And if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Through here!
Over there.
They need this.
Well, that's my workout for the day.
Cool kid over here.
Reload. Molotov here.
Cool.